With One Punch Man Season 3 releasing and the manga deciding to stop retconning their story for the 100th fucking time, today I will be talking about how actually strong is the One Punch Man, aka Saitama. Now, it goes without saying that Saitama's power for years has been debated back and forth, with people saying he's barely star level at best, to people saying he genuinely can't be stopped due to having gag powers and is omnipotent. There's really no in between when it comes to this character, so I will be going over his scaling and how it's changed over the years, and how he truly stacks up against some of the strongest characters that he's often put up against, like Goku, Gojo, etc. Now, obviously there will be spoilers in this video regarding the manga and current events for this series, along with One Punch Man Season 3. But firstly, I will be breaking down his scaling in the anime and the manga up to that point, and then go from there. Before we even go on about Saitama's scaling, we need to first talk about One Punch Man's themes and what it represents, as it does lead into Saitama's biggest argument as to why he is unbeatable and can potentially solo fiction. And that, of course, is Saitama being a gag character. A lot of people believe the idea of Saitama is supposed to be that he literally is unbeatable and can one-punch people, man. But the idea of Saitama isn't supposed to be a funny character that actually punches everybody into oblivion. It's actually much deeper than that. The creator of the Series 1 even talks about this, with him saying Saitama is supposed to be a spin-off on what the average shonen MC goes through. Rather than seeing Saitama start off weak and progressing through the series and eventually becoming OP by the end, we have Saitama pretty much being at level 100 by the start of chapter 1. And the reason for this is because it's not only something different and a different take on what the average shonen MC usually goes through, but it allows One and Murata to fully focus on Saitama's character and what it means to be a hero. Now, these are topics I went fully in depth with in separate videos from the past, but to keep it brief and simple here, Saitama's entire goal is to try and find an opponent that can truly satisfy him. Throughout Saitama's life, he never really found any meaning until he decided to try and save a kid one day, and then got so strong he was able to pretty much one-shot every threat on the planet. Saitama throughout the story while trying to be a hero questions if this is all worth it, and him having this power to him almost feels like a curse. How is this manga in any way just a funny haha gag story about Saitama one-shotting people and being omnipotent? He doesn't even technically do this to every opponent anyway, so this whole argument just falls apart and is just silly. One Punch Man is not a gag manga about an unstoppable caped baldy. It's about a man learning how to not only satisfy himself with this newfound power, but apply it to better himself as a hero as well. Saitama being the quote-unquote One Punch Man doesn't matter either, considering we see him later down the line in the manga actually grow in strength and not just take down enemies with one punch. So for those people who have been genuinely holding on to this argument for over a decade at this point, no, Saitama cannot literally one-shot anything and everything. He's just simply much stronger and faster than pretty much everything in his own universe, so it comes off that way. So this would mean when scaling Saitama, we can use other feats from the heroes as a baseline. And luckily for us, some of the best feats within early One Punch Man just so happen to come from Saitama himself. You see, Saitama was able to destroy Boros' ship with relative ease and stop a meteor that was going to wipe out City Z. For reference, City Z is so large that some calculations have its size ranging from as big as an island or even the size of some countries. Meaning a casual Saitama is capable of stopping nationwide threats, and something that even Genos didn't even surpass until his absolute peak of power. In universe as well, he managed to one-shot the same Carnage Kabuto who was able to fight the once physically strongest hero, Darkshine. This is the same guy who'd go on to embarrass the same half-monster Garou who just survived an encounter with Rover and Orochi. But still, at the time, it took him 15 minutes at full power to bring down Carnage Kabuto. Meanwhile, Saitama, getting annoyed about some groceries, managed to just one-shot this threat with relative ease. Regardless, this shows you how ridiculous his strength is, despite him never actually showing it off. We also saw as early as Season 1 Genos being able to put holes into mountains, and this would be the same Genos that would go into a high diff fight with the Deep Sea King. And yet again, this would be another threat that Saitama easily takes care of. This leads us, of course, into the Boros fight, where Saitama is now taking on a threat to the entire world, and possibly a threat that could pose a challenge to him. We know that Boros himself is stated to be above Dragon, but he does not have the threat level god. However, this guy ends up not even phasing Saitama at all. His greatest move was a destructive energy blast that could destroy the surface of the planet to potentially the whole planet itself, which is when Saitama would decide to throw a serious punch for the fun of it, as if it was like finishing off someone in a video game with a flashy move. And this attack would quite literally disperse Boros' full power and leave him looking like this. We also saw each of Saitama's punches do significant damage to Boros. It was just the fact that he was able to hold on due to regeneration. And Boros even admits to himself that Saitama didn't even try all that much. So for those who would like to say that Boros is OP because he was able to press Saitama, that is not the case. And although Saitama saved the day, it was the fact that this guy at his very best, and of course this leads into Saitama having a mental conflict of some kind, with him wondering if it's even worth continuing being a hero if no one's ever going to satisfy his hunger. But after a pep talk with someone like King, who despite not having powers tries to do the best he can because he has a reputation to hold and wants to actually do good for people, and on top of the fact that monsters are starting to take over, this leads into Saitama going underground and eventually coming across the Monster King himself, Orochi. Now this monster has an array of abilities, but the most important one to note of course is his Gaia Cannon, a move where Orochi shoots energy straight from the Earth's core. Based on this image and how much kinetic energy Orochi would need to actually absorb from the Earth's core, we can infer Orochi's full power roughly is around 367 petatons to potentially over 189 exatons of TNT. For reference, this is enough energy to wipe out multiple continents, with the higher end of this feat clocking in at moon level. Saitama then proceeds to counter this same attack with bathwater. I am not kidding. Saitama quite literally deflects moon wiping energy with pressurized bathwater. And speaking of, we would then see him engage with a literal body of water, that being Evil Natural Ocean. Now, despite Evil Natural Ocean getting one-shotted by Saitama, other than in his fight with Boros and technically Garou right after this, Saitama only ever used the Serious Punch on this monster, which would cause a tectonic shift after throwing the punch. And the reason, in my opinion, Saitama did this is because of Evil Natural Ocean's body of water, and we've seen before the Serious Punch having ridiculous range in comparison to his normal punches. Now, after Orochi's defeat, we would then see Garou managing to bring down a monster known as Sage Centipede, who is a monster that did require Orochi's sacrifice to summon, and a lot of people use this to suggest that Sage Centipede should be portrayed above Orochi at his full power, due to the fact that Orochi got one-shotted by Saitama, and yet Sage Centipede was summoned to go and fight the same guy. But I know that this debate in general is very contentious. Regardless, we do know based on how fast Sage Centipede can actually move despite his size, the kinetic energy of this creature should be withstanding around over 71 zetatons, which is more than enough energy to easily wipe out a planet. And mind you, Garou, while not even at full power, can karate chop this same planet-busting monster in half after Sage was just summoned to go and take out the same Saitama that folded Orochi. And then we see Garou go through more transformations and get beat by Saitama so bad that Garou would believe that he is in fact the hateful fist that wronged the gods and not himself. And he would even throw an ultimate attack that was capable of warping the planet itself. And on top of this, he would throw moves that would not only hurt Saitama's vital organs and insides, but specifically melt through his organs as well. And you guys want to know why this didn't work on Saitama at all? He was simply too strong. Now, how I interpret this scene is that Garou seems to be so much weaker than Saitama that his hacks doesn't really affect him, similar to how Dragon Ball characters operate. And so Garou, seeing no other option, decides to literally accept the power of God himself to make himself an entirely new entity and anomaly for Saitama to fight. And of course this goes back to Garou himself, as Garou wants to become somebody so powerful that nobody can defy him. And so in order to do this, he has to sacrifice his humanity and become something else. And so now we enter the Cosmic Fear Garou versus Saitama battle, which takes Saitama's power into a completely new scale. You see, Cosmic Garou passively emits cosmic radiation that would knock out almost everyone, with the exception being Bang, Genos, and Saitama. We see that this form of Garou as well can copy real-life phenomena, as he quite literally emits a nuclear bomb from his fists. While fighting Saitama, he would then proceed to create a legit gamma ray burst, which, mind you, even the manga goes out of its way to state that this type of energy Garou emits comes from when a star reaches the end of its life. And we also know gamma ray bursts in real life generate more energy than the sun ever will in its entire lifetime. Based off this real life phenomena and Garou being able to use this energy, it's not ridiculous to assume that Garou at this point is fighting on a completely different scale, even when comparing him to someone like Boros. And speaking of, I already can see a lot of you commenting about this Boros statement for star level Saitama, but we know that Saitama, when using his serious punch or serious mode, easily exceeds those levels. And though this is primarily anime only and I wouldn't count this with the manga, it's still something to note because the only time Saitama genuinely gets serious is with this version of Garou, who already has shown star level capabilities. So to say that serious punches from Saitama are exceeding star level are not ridiculous, as we not only have this anime statement, but we also have feats from the manga backing this up. So in my opinion, it wouldn't be inconsistent to say that Saitama's casual levels are around that large planet to low star level range. But of course, as you guys are about to see right now, when Saitama actually tries, it's an entirely new ballgame. We'd see Saitama only being sent far away from the gamma ray burst, not taking any crazy damage. And as he would go back to fight Garou, he would witness Garou murder his pupil in cold blood. And of course, this calls back to the Deep Sea King saga, where Genos says that he always arrives late. After Garou ultimately kills Genos, Saitama at this point decides to kick things up a notch, and he'd go on to throw a serious punch. Who actually named Saitama's attacks, by the way? I want to know who did this. Garou would then proceed to copy Saitama's power directly, and the two of them would end up having a clash so powerful, the strongest S-Class Hero Blast would have to intervene with his entire goon squad and move the energy into outer space, where we would then see what would have been dozens if not hundreds of stars now have an empty circle in the middle of it. This would mean Saitama and Garou's energy would erase a bunch of stars, indicating that they are even stronger than what was previously mentioned before. This feat has been argued back and forth with individuals, with some believing it's solar system level at worst, to people trying to go as far as to say it's galaxy level depending on the amount of stars that were actually there. I believe personally galaxy level is a bit of a stretch, and solar to multisolar seems more consistent as it seems to follow less assumptions, but I do just want to leave the possibility of galaxy level Saitama being out there. Anywho, Saitama and Garou throughout this battle just go absolutely crazy. We have Saitama sneezing away majority of planets, these guys moving so fast that they're creating light constructs on an even faster scale than what Garou was doing earlier, which should imply that they're traveling at massively faster than light speeds. And as the fight progresses, we see that Garou is constantly copying Saitama's power, while Saitama at this point is just surpassing his limit as the fight goes on. We see this shown in a literal graph presented by Garou, showing that he's growing and getting stronger at a faster rate than what Garou could copy. We do actually see Saitama having a certain limit and Garou surpassing certain versions of Saitama's full power, but Saitama simply just kept growing so fast that Garou couldn't keep up and couldn't copy his full power. This level of adaptation is ridiculous and is comparable to Saiyans themselves. Saitama simply kept shattering his limits, and this prevented Garou from adapting himself, and we even find out near the end of the fight that Saitama didn't even want to kill him. And when Garou sees the damage he's done, he requests Saitama to help reverse the damage he's done by imitating his technique. And in my opinion, this is probably the most complicated part of the video, so please bear with me here. Okay, so for this to make sense, you need to understand that Garou's cosmic rays produce particles and antiparticles. Antiparticles move through time backwards, and these two particles that move forward and backward in time mimic each other's movements. When these composed elements inside of Saitama reach this state, as Saitama, due to being able to instantly master things, can master the anomalies happening within Garou's body, this allows Saitama to be launched forward into time, technically. The thing with this, however, is Saitama does this through specifically copying a technique, and he himself isn't time traveling exactly. And with this technique, his body is launched forward into time. But due to the events on Jupiter, technically when Saitama throws his punch, it's actually never thrown, as he's reversing time to land the blow before he even throws it. This sounds so trippy and stupid, but pretty much in simpler words, Saitama with a specific technique should be granted at least infinite speed, with of course the argument of Saitama being beyond linear time or having a measurable speed being on the table. My thing is, however, Saitama never does this ever again, and it's through a specific technique that he had to learn through from Garou. So if anything, you can say Saitama through hacks could be immeasurable, or this specific Saitama with this one attack should be able to manipulate the laws of time in his favor, being able to defy causality itself. I think a lot of people see this scene and think, oh, well, he could just punch anyone before he actually decides to throw a move, but no, that's not how it works. Saitama from this point in the story has broken not only his own limits and expectations, but has become such an opposing force of nature that now literal divine beings and entities from other dimensional planes are starting to enter the picture. The argument of God being 4D is on the table, however, we don't know when Saitama and God are going to fight, so no, I am not going to say Saitama is 4D. And no, him catching the dimensional slash does not mean he's 4D or universal. I would say this speaks more so to Saitama's hacks resistance, as he's able to catch an attack that's able to breach dimensional barriers, which surely is going to come in handy in the next section we're going to talk about. Now that you are finally caught up to Saitama's scaling in history, we can now compare him to the other verses or fictional characters he often gets compared to. Like I said, Saitama at his very peak is surpassing those solar system tiers of power and is moving well beyond the speed of light at this point. He also weirdly enough has a lot of hacks resistances or things that he can just bypass due to being so strong. Things such as blast warp gates, psychic powers that affect you on a cellular level, attacks that can cut through dimensional barriers, attacks that can melt through your organs, and a lot of versions of Dura negation. Surprisingly, Saitama is packing a lot for a dude who just one punches people. Yo, Ty, did you just say he was packing, bro? Yo, man, I don't even want to record this anymore. Now, generally, the main anime characters that often get compared with Saitama is, of course, Goku, and as of more recent times, Gojo. These two obviously not only hold the world's strongest type of title Saitama himself holds in his own universe, but, I mean, Goku versus Saitama specifically has been talked about for over a damn decade at this point. I don't think anyone is believing Gojo can hit harder than Saitama unless you think he unironically scales to Yuki's black hole, which wouldn't really matter anyway, since Saitama could probably just tank that level of energy that Yuki is able to generate. When Gojo's hollow purple being able to crush space wouldn't matter either, because Saitama has interacted with attacks that can do similar things. The main question that is asked about for this versus battle is, can Saitama get through infinity? Which, in my opinion, yes, it really shouldn't be all that hard for him. You see, he's able to interact and grab hyperspace gates and catching attacks that are supposedly able to cut or even warp space itself, which should mean Saitama is able to interact with infinity and break it if he pleases. And so, unironically, this guy would be able to one-punch Gojo. That's round one. What about round two? As far as Goku goes, I mean, Solar System is something that we've seen in the Cell Saga in the manga and a dying Frieza by the time of the anime. If we're going with manga scaling only, and if you're being generous to Saitama and say that he's galaxy level, I would say he's beyond the Super Saiyan 2 tier fighters in the Buu Saga. However, if we were being as generous to Goku as we were with Saitama, I believe Goku by the end of the Cell games, in the anime version at least, should just be able to power creep and surpass Frieza himself so much worse than what Saitama managed to pull from the beginning versus end of his fight with Garou. As far as characters like Ben 10 or God Goku go, well, I mean, these guys are just destroying or creating universes with minimal effort, which unfortunately is something Saitama has yet to showcase. The only thing you can say is, oh yeah, Saitama doesn't have a limit! Which is like, cool bro, Ben 10 and Goku not only have those stupid statements, but they actually have the feats to back it up. Now, I do believe he is a step above the majority of the Naruto and One Piece verse by a good margin, with the exception of like that one dude from Boruto, I guess. But mind you, this is not even considering Saitama's full power, and we have yet to see what he is truly capable of. But as far as the strong characters that Saitama really gets compared to, like Marvel or DC, any half-decent version of Superman or Hulk or really any relevant comic book character should be able to spank him. And realistically, we don't even know if he's stronger than God himself in his own verse, so no, I cannot sit here and say that Saitama is 4D. And even if you wanted to get him the 4D, he still doesn't beat Alien X, and he still doesn't even beat Blue Goku or Base Goku by the end of the TOP arc. So to answer the question of the video, no, Saitama doesn't solo. Bro might just be a Cell Saga TN victim. I hate everything.